Everybody on this webinar is worth more than you are getting paid. Nothing wrong with a job. Just understand that capitalism demands that a W-2 requires the taxes to come off the top. I don't care how much money you make working, it's how much money you make not working. People really, I don't want to offend anybody, but I just want people to understand that your passive income and what you make not working is what you need to focus on, not how high your salary is and how much you make working. Because the truth of the matter is the amount of money that you make working as a W-2 is considerably less than the amount that you're providing the company. That's called lost opportunity costs. I'm gonna talk about that in a second. But in other words, if you pay me, I don't care. Listen, let me give you an example. We'll look at a celebrity or an athlete and say, man, $20 million over 4 years, that's $5 million a year. Well, who's cutting his check? You adding up if I can pay you $5 million a year, that means I'm worth at least 100 times that, because you're not the only player on my team. So we brag at the athlete's check. I want to see what the owner's doing. The owner owns the business. The athlete is a high paid employee. That's why I love what the athletes are doing now. They're taking more control over their careers. Yeah, okay, I get it. I'm a high paid employee, but I'm using my endorsements. I'm using my salary. I'm starting my own business. I own several different businesses. And when I retire, hopefully the new generation is starting to get this, especially I got to give it to LeBron James. He really has every athlete thinking now about taking control over their own contract, bringing people who are credible with you. He has his own corporation. He made Nike renegotiate his lifetime agreement. You know, all these guys can have potential to be, not everybody, but people like LeBron James have potential to be billionaires as a result of being an employee. So I know it can work, but he's working it. You have to work it. And a getting taxed off the top is not the way to get wealthy. Let me move on, because I mess around and have to do part 3, and I gotta get ready to rock. All right, here we go. Now, why interest is the #1 reason you'll never be wealthy. If anyone can claim you owe by way of debt, you are in no control of that area of your life. Very important. #2. Lost opportunity cost means $5,000 can cost you $1 million. Let me say that again. A lot of people miss this. $5,000 can cost you $1 million. And last bullet point on the webinar, money never stops working. Money only stops working for you if you let it. Once I got that, oh my goodness, it was an eye-opener, man. It was an eye-opener. Let me say that again. Money never stops working. Money only stops working for you. So on this webinar, let me prove this to you. Lost opportunity cost. Let me start with bullet point #2. What exactly is lost opportunity cost? Brian, what in the world do you mean? All right. Here's what wealthy people factor that the middle class never factors. If you spend, let's say your car is $29,000. This is important. Your car is $29,000. Now, interest is the penalty you pay for the right to own things you can't afford in advance. Write that down. Interest is the penalty you pay for the right to own things you cannot afford in advance. That's deep when you think about it now. Interest is the penalty you pay for the right to own things you cannot afford in advance. So if your car is $29,000 and you're paying interest on that car, the sticker was $29,000. Now you think you went in and talked them down to $26,000. And what you say to yourself is, I saved $3,000. No, you didn't. Not at all. The car only cost them $11,000, because you got to remember, they bought 100 of them. So the car cost $11,000. You paid $26,000. It cost them $11,000. They made $15,000 off what they call the front. Now you finance the car. So they made $15,000 on the front because you talked them down to 26 and they paid 11. They made $15,000 on the front. Then, because you financed the 26, because you saved $3,000, you financed 26,000. By the time you pay the car off, if you had bad credit, it ended up costing you 43,000. So now, let me get this straight. They made 15,000 on the front, right? And they made what I say, 26, 43, 17,000 on the back in interest. Now, remember what I told you earlier. Interest is the penalty you pay for the right to own things you can't afford in advance. You almost bought the car twice. You paid $17,000 in interest. They paid $11,000 for the car. You paid the $26,000 back plus $17,000 in interest because you had quote unquote bad credit. But why do you have bad credit? Because your cash flow is tied up, so you couldn't make previous payments. But you had to have the car. See, that's emotional. Let me tell you something. I hope the car was worth it. I hope the car was worth it. Now, what's lost opportunity costs? See, this is where you got to change your mindset. You won't get wealthy being who you are. You got to change your mindset. Lost opportunity cost is this. If you take let's just take the interest, the 17,000, and you put that in a money market account. I'm sorry, money with a money management company, an investment company, T. Rowe Price, Vanguard, Fidelity, at an interest rate of 8 to 12%. Tell me over that same period of time what interest working for you would bring you, but you bought the car instead. So if you do the math, if that $17,000 was in an account getting 8%, you might have $242,000 by the time you retire. I hope the car was worth it. But see, you wanted to look good. So you gave the bank an extra 17, but you didn't factor your lost opportunity cost. Wealthy people say, wait a minute now, before I give you 17, let me at least pull out my calculator and see. Well, first of all, wealthy people wouldn't be giving them 17. But what you got to start saying is, let me at least pull out my calculator and see what $17,000 would have done if it was over here growing money instead of over here losing money. See, there's nothing wrong with capitalism. People misunderstand that. It's that you don't understand capitalism. So you're constantly getting capitalized on. That's called lost opportunity costs.